Welcome to Be Care. I'm Vicky Legg from the church support team. The lesson is Be Care Promotes, and the topic that we are focusing on now is Be Care Promotes the Power of Community. We'll be covering that God created us from and for community and look at what a definition of community is before having a quick view of how the church can provide community. We are created for community. At its deepest level, the human heart aches for relationship more than anything else. This is because God Himself is a community within the fellowship of the Trinity. We desire to be in communion because before the advent of creation itself, God was part of an eternal fellowship. This ache in the human heart is clear residual evidence that we are created from community and for community. So what is community? The World Health Organization defines community as a social group determined by geographic boundaries and/or common values and interests. Its members know and interact with one another. It functions within a particular social structure and exhibits and creates norms, values, and social institutions. Recently, in Australia and overseas, there's been media reports and even royal commissions recommending community. The World Health Organization report on ageism said that intergenerational communities reduce ageism. Locally, we've seen community visitor schemes recommended to protect isolated people living with disability. And also in the mental health sphere, they've said that lack of meaningful links to community is a key factor in people disengaging from mental health support. We know that community is good for us. The church meets that definition of community. Faith communities build individual strengths whilst fostering restorative communities. The church meets all year round. Unlike service clubs or other things that might only meet for a specific purpose, the church continues to meet. It's multi-generational, which is protective against ageism. It meets regularly, it welcomes all races, all abilities, and it meets voluntarily. For people who are vulnerable, who have a lot of paid workers, often they talk about the fact that there's no one in their life who's not paid to be there. So the church providing reciprocal relationships that are voluntarily and meeting voluntarily is something that brings health to people. The church can support behavioural change. Research has shown that connection and belonging support individual behavioural change, and that this behavioural change is supported by things like the reciprocal relationships that we've just mentioned, and also altruism, that giving, which is why Anne will talk about volunteerism. It provides relational welfare. Now, this concept of relational welfare is described by Hilary Kotem in a TED Talk. And in that talk, she says that friendships replace the need for expensive services and social networks. They help provide meaning, purpose, and employment for people. And Anne will talk more about this in the Be Care Develops Belonging video. Now we're going to briefly look at 10 descriptors of a healthy community. Some of these we've unpacked already, and others will be developed further in the Be Care Develops topic. Firstly, there's an awareness that we are community. We belong. When people belong, they participate and their gifts are used. Communities use and conserve resources. They recognise subgroups and welcome participation, and I think I've talked about in another video a person with mental health issues who is a good guitarist, and a church employed flexible rostering for that person to be able to be part of the music team that they were rostered with another person. So if they were unwell, it was okay, there was still a guitarist, and if they were well and they were participating, there was 2 guitarists that day. Communities are prepared to meet crises, and they have problem solving. They're able to problem solve to meet their own needs, and we've talked about that in growing resilience and using a strength-based approach. In a healthy community, communication, conflict resolution, and decision making support inclusion and participation. All voices are heard as part of that community. The system's resources are available to all. They're not hoarded for the benefit of a few. And healthy communities care for the marginalised. They're not just focused on the inside. If you think back to the body ministry, the weaker parts are indispensable, and the community as a whole is not whole without them. And as I said, the lesson Be Care Develops will focus on developing healthy communities, connections, and belonging.